always like to, I want to say, highlight what Books in the Hood have been to authors as well as book banners. Actually, they bridged a beautiful gap, and in bridging that gap, you know, we're currently here with. Can I say your government, good brother?
You can say my government. That's what my good mama name is. So,
you know, I want you to say it because I don't want you know how it is, man.
Yeah. All right, my name is Antuan Sumpter, and they call me Thug Love in the streets. Y'all already know.
Right.
My mama named me Antuan.
Right. I want to ask, man. You know, you have Sucker for Love, the Diary of Love, the Diary of Love Jones, book 1 and book 2.
Book 1 and book 2.
Right. Before you even embarked on the fact of putting the book out, who inspired you?
Who inspired me?
As an author?
As an author, I would say I will go way back in the days and say Claude Brown, Man, Child, and the Promising.
Wow.
I read that one, it was so deep and it gripped me so much. I said, yo, is this me? Was he with me? So then it just amazed me how, you know, you could be reading a book and you could be in a whole nother world. It's like escapism. What I did was I embarked on the road of the self-publishing, right, they call it. You're not a self-publisher, you're a publisher. Once you put a book out there, you're a publisher. It's how hard you put it out there. And that's my belief. But me, I was an author, and I was like, you know what, I love writing books, I love people to read my books, but I gotta be a good publisher too. I can't just be a good author because my books are just sitting on the shelf.
Right.
Let me tell you, this was the last book I actually wrote. These are the last ones. I wrote 10 all together. I wrote it while I was incarcerated. I did like 6 years in solitary confinement. And while I was in there, I just said, you know, what I'm gonna do to change my life, to turn this whole life around, you know, selling drugs, robbing, gangbanging, and all this other crazy stuff that's gonna lead me back to prison. And I said, you know what, I'm gonna write a book. And I started, and it was just out of pure passion. You know what I'm saying? Pure passion. I just wrote it, and I wrote some about my life.
Right.
You know what I mean? I just put the story down, you know, as real as I could, because I was like, you know what? Like when I wrote my first book, A Thug Is Born, I was more or less like, you know, I want to write this for the children coming in the hood that's being introduced to the thug life and the gangster life, and how, you know, I started off on his childhood and stuff like that. So I write out of pure passion. Well, the feel of the new book is called A Thug Is Born.
Okay.
It's volume 1 is childhood, and volume 2 is sex, money, and murder. And with that book, it's like, you know, what made me really get into that was my first book.
Okay.
And it was out of I wouldn't say desperation. I would say it was out of I was on my bottom. I was on a rock bottom of my whole life. Like, you know, I was sitting in a box. I was up in there with one of my Mikey B. You know what I'm saying? He's still locked down. That's my brother. Even though this was like in 1999 when I wrote that book right there. And I was reading, you know, all the books like Donald Goines, all that stuff. I said, I want to put everything in the hood into like one book. But before all that, he said, oh, so what we gonna do to make these, I ain't gonna lie, these crackers mad that they lock great minds like us up in here and change our life? I said, I don't know. And he came up with the idea, let's write a book, because I was doing poetry. Let's do a poetry book. I was doing poetry as well. And that's when I wrote A Thug Is Born. Now that one right there, I read all these other books, and I like how, you know, it starts off with the character. He got the money, power, respect already. But I was like, you know, everybody ain't just wake up one day and they just G'd up and they got all the money, they got all the loot, respect. It was levels and stages that they had to go through from a child to a man in order to get to that point. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna write about my character's childhood. The first book is gonna be about his whole childhood. It's G'd up, about how he's a product of his environment, everything like that. And part 2 is when he started getting money and start really getting in the game hard.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And I got part 3 and 4 as well for that one.
And there's more to come.
There's definitely more to come. And I love being out there in the street. It's intimate to meet my readers, people that's reading my books, than it just being sold to show. And yo, shout out to Devon and Books in the Hood. Can you look over here right in front of his table right here? What he got right there? He got my book. He show man love. He show man love. Sucker for love. He believe in the vision, the dream.
Appreciate you, brother. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I definitely appreciate the whole thing.
No doubt, man.